Welcome to the ThunderCast, your martial athletics podcast produced by the fans, for the fans, with your hosts, Russ Livingood and Jed Horton. We're bringing you the thundering word on the thundering herd each and every week, so keep it right here, because the ThunderCast is on the loose. Hey, welcome back to another episode of the ThunderCast, a little bit new look, and we finally have me and Jed together for this new look ThunderCast. KD and I will still have our usual weekly show, and Jed and I are going to constantly be doing our 5 things every herd fan needs to know this week and around the herd. So I'm your host, Russ Livingood. With me, Jed. Jed, welcome back.
Hey, Russ, glad to be back. Had a few weeks off, and it was good to be back in the saddle, and good to be back with you, ready to talk some herd sports.
Yeah, I've been itching to talk some sports with you. It's been a lot has happened. Obviously, every time we do this show, it feels like a lot has happened in just a week. I did survive those awkward solo shows. I don't suggest anyone tries to do that. Paul Swan, I always tell Paul and anyone that will listen to me, Paul does that Monday through Friday by himself with no one to bounce things off of unless he has a special guest. And it is hard, man. It is hard. But we're back, and it's the two of us this week. And I just want to say, make sure to bookmark ThunderCast.Online. We have articles over there, a lot of other cool stuff. More to come with that real soon. And always follow us, subscribe to us, like us on all your social media. KD does a bang-up job over on Twitter, interacting with the fans and bringing you constant news. But make sure that you subscribe to us on YouTube for watching video or for listening at your favorite streaming app. Jed, before we get into all this, I need to talk about our sponsors, Leasure Oliver PLLC, also known as 304carwreck.com. Tell everyone they've been with us since day 0. They made it possible for us to get this show off the ground. They have stayed with us every single day from that. And I just want to let everybody know that I have used their services. Unfortunately, I have been in automobile accidents. And unfortunately, I learned the hard way that you do not want to talk to the insurance agents and their they're people that are trying to get you the lowest thing that they can pay you, right? You want to have 304carwreck.com handle that for you. So let's get a little word from Leasure Oliver PLLC, otherwise known as 304carwreck.com. If you've been hurt in a wreck, call the law firm of Leasure Oliver PLLC. Found them at 304carwreck.com. All right, Jed. Like I said, they've been with us since day 0. They've helped us do a lot of things. But the man right next to me in his studio, Jed Horton, with Ignite Link, has done a lot to get this show off the ground. Not just being here as a co-host, but you and Ignite Link power us up for our live tailgate show that we do, all the special events things that we do and have going on, and sponsoring this next segment, which again, you guys have been here almost since day 0. It's been since, I think, May we got started in April, so the very next month that we started, you came on board. Is that right?
Yeah, I think you were several episodes in. It wasn't too many episodes in that we connected and got to talking, and the rest is history, as they say. I actually had my Starlink out the other day doing a firmware update on it, making sure that we were ready to go. So we got a spring game coming up that I'm sure we're going to be talking about over the next few weeks.
Yeah, we got a lot to talk about with that. KD and I've been hitting a little bit of it up, and we're excited. And I need to get with you about the schedule because they just told me some of the things. We're going to be doing something pretty exciting if everybody can on that day before, that Friday before, with a lot of alumni. All right, Jed, let's hear from Ignite Link, and let's get right into our 5 things.
All right.
And now, here are at least 5 things every Herd fan needs to know this week. As always, brought to you by Ignite Link, the Tri State's premier IT management team. All right, so we're going to get started with number 1. Obina Anachili Killen, named Sunbelt Conference Defensive Player of the Year. Also makes second team All Sunbelt Conference, and now is first in the country in block shots.
Yeah, and it couldn't happen to a better guy. We're going to talk a little bit about the athletic, men's basketball and around the Herd, but watching him play over these last few years, I mean, I feel like, and I think it's just said somewhere on social media, it seems like he's been around for at least 30 years. I think he's been at Marshall since I've been there, since I was there. But you got a guy like that who's willing to stick around, be committed to the program. Coach Jackson had a lot of good things, obviously, to say about him. Um, well deserved, and he's definitely put on a show since he's been here. Excited to see him kind of go out with some of these accolades.
Yeah, so what I love about him, he's a West Virginia kid. He was here at Chapmanville High School, not far from where I grew up, and he was a winner there in high school. And then he had offers to several different places that he could have gone, and he chose Marshall because it was kind of home and because of their engineering program. So he chose schooling, so that's easy to root for, right? Everyone likes that. And then once he's here, he's improving his outside game. He's improving his defense. He's improving all these different aspects of his game. And then in this day of NIL, in this day of the transfer portal, he starts getting offers to, hey, if you want to test the waters, we can test the waters. And he chose to stay here at Marshall. And he is our all-time leader in block shots. He's up the board on rebounds and points scored and stuff like that. But no matter how you slice it, he is a Herd all-timer here now with this new era and him staying here for 4 years and putting up the numbers that he did.
Absolutely.
I think in that game, which we're going to talk a little bit, he had the first 11 points in that final game that he played for Marshall, unless we get a postseason postseason tournament invite. But as of right now, in his last game, putting up what he did, I mean, that just made it that much sweeter and everything. All right, so over to number 2. Aislinn Hayes named to the first team of the All Sun Belt Conference, and CC Mays makes the third team.
Yep, it's again, we're going to talk about this a little bit probably around the Herd, but what a run that they did in the Sun Belt tournament, and those two gals definitely were heavily involved in the changing of the trajectory over the last few games of the regular season and then into the Sun Belt tournament. Unfortunately, I think they just ran out of gas playing all those games, those many days in a row. But goes to show that we had talent, we had skill, and Aislinn Hayes and CC Mays were very, very integral part of that. I'm glad to see them get recognized because they're ballers.
Yeah, Hayes, last year came onto the scene for Marshall as she had transferred in and just seemed to fit in Coach Kim Caldwell's offense, and defense as well. And CC Mays came on even harder this year. And at one point, she was the best player on the team for maybe 2 weeks, but definitely over a week's time. I mean, she was just putting up mid-20s and, the person that the other team had to shut down. And she stepped up when some people were injured, and she stepped up when some people weren't shooting as well or whatever. But both of these players, man, I can't imagine the success of Marshall without them. You know, what they did last year, what they did this year. Both of them had to take on bigger roles this year, even though Aislinn Hayes was in a huge role last year. It's just you can't say enough about them and what they have done for Marshall. CC Mays has time left. I am hoping that she stays here. Aislinn Hayes walked on um, senior night, and so did Mays. So both are graduating, but I think Hayes is out of eligibility and Mays has a year of eligibility left, I think. So don't hold me to that, but I'm really hoping that we see CC Mays come back here next year.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's definitely going to be like every single year, Russ. There's always some turnover as kids graduate.
Yep.
Kids unfortunately nowadays with NIL and portal and all that stuff can hit the portal as well. So
Yep.
always some turnover year to year, and you hope these kids that have um, done well for us that they continue if they can to stay here and play basketball with the herd.
Yeah. And both of them had options to leave, I'm sure. I know for a fact that Hayes was in the portal at one point, and I can't remember if Mays was or not, but they both decided to stick around after a coaching staff change. And Mays, I think that makes 3 coaches in 3 years that she was here under. So again, it endears you to these athletes even more when they decide to stay when they could have gone elsewhere.
Absolutely.
All right. Number 3, Cornelius Jackson is a finalist for 2 different coaching awards. The Joe B. Hall Award is for a first-time head coach, and this is his first year as a head coach, so he is a finalist for that. And also the Ben Jobe Award for the top minority head coach. Thoughts on not only this, but Corny Jackson's first year overall?
It's well, you know how how social media treated Corny at the very beginning of the year. I think you have a guy who is passionate about Marshall basketball. Right,
Yeah.
played here. He's very passionate here. If you watched his introductory, whenever when they introduced him as head
Yeah.
coach and how he spoke and how this was such a big deal for him. He took a team that was, I think the cupboard was a little bit bare. He took some players that were from the previous years, good players, went to the portal, got some guys, and was able to take a group of guys that haven't really played together and have them gelling at the right time at the end of the year. We'll talk about this more around the herd with how that last and final game went. But you cannot say that Coach Jackson that team didn't continue to get better due to the coaching efforts of him, whether it was game planning, moving people around to the right spot, getting these players developed. For a first season, 20-win season, I think Coach Jackson has proved that he's the guy for the job.
Yep.
And his trajectory is up from here. I really do believe that. So congrats to him. Well deserved.
Yeah. And I don't have, as is the common term now, I don't have receipts. I can get them. I don't have them to read off. But let me tell you a couple of things that were said. We didn't do a national coaching hire. We took the lazy hire. Here's other things that were said. He's going to be Danny 2.0, just not as good as Danny, because he's not Danny. And other people were like, well, he's going to do the same things as Danny, so why make the change? All these different things. Like, he's going to be a first-year head coach. We wanted to have somebody here that, came with a background, a proven success rate, somebody that would bring his own players in and everything, not just the same old, same old. Shame on you, Marshall. Shame on you, Spears. All this stuff about Coach Jackson. And he goes out and does exactly what you said. He got pieces that fit what he needed from what we were losing. He upgraded our team. He upgraded our bench. He used some of the returning players that we had, and he kept them here. They wanted to stay for him. It's you bring in another coach. I don't know for a fact that Obina. I would like to think he was going to stay no matter what, but I don't know. Right?
Right.
I do know that he definitely wanted to stay and play for Coach Jackson. I do know that. Same with Martin. He wanted to stay and play for Coach Jackson. I think if you go back and read the interview when he was talking about that he was coming back, he said, I want to be here at Marshall and I want to be here under Coach Jackson. You had assistants on the team that stayed here and they were with him. We brought in a new guy, for the bench, Fulford, and the rest were people that we had here before. And so there was continuity, and we got to keep some all-time players, some players that the fans love. And then we added to this, and those players that came in here for just 1 year, the twins, the Gibbs twins, and then, I'm blanking. Dawson. I was trying to say Crawford. That was the year before when he was here for 1 year. But Michael Dawson comes in here, local kid. He comes back. He wants to play for Marshall, but he wants to play for Corny. We just had some ballers play this year. They got better as the year went on. 20 wins in the first year. Come on, man. Lazy hire, that I'd love to just put those tweets up here or those message board messages up here so everybody and I got to tell you, just about everybody that said those has gladly eaten their crow. And they have recanted and said, I was wrong. Coach Jackson is great. I'm glad that we brought him. So I'm not saying anybody needs to step up and say something because they've already said it themselves. You can find anybody that says, I was wrong. I was gladly wrong. I'm glad that we brought in Coach Jackson.
Yeah. And I've seen those as well. And I think that, like you said, they're happy to eat that crow. And, we want to get back to championship basketball, right? The goal is the same, right? We're not going to settle. I mean, how we exited the tournament is not how we want to, it's not who we are. It's not what we want to do. We want to get to championship basketball. We want to, be competing for that, championship every single year in the Sun Belt. And it's obtainable. It is at the way the conference is. We have that opportunity to do that. And I think Coach Jackson has earned his time to give him some time to build this program under his leadership. So, first year head coach, 20 wins, we'll take that. Do we want a championship? Of course we do. But we also have the reality of first year head coaches. These things generally take time. So, well deserved of these awards that he's getting, and excited to see what he's going to do with this program over the next few years.
Yeah, I sure am excited about the next few years. You got some good players coming in the recruiting class. We are losing a lot, and it could be a step backwards. It's not going to be because he's hitting some kind of sophomore slump as a coach. It's just when you lose an all timer, it's going to be hard to replace. But I'm confident after this first year that we have a coach that players love, fans love, and he can win. All right, number 4, Grace Kelsheimer is competing at the Zone A NCAA diving zones in both the 3-meter and 1-meter dives.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's this program did really well this year, and excited to see, glad to see that these competitors are, being able to compete at these events. So that's really awesome.
NCAAs is always big. Kelsheimer qualified for these, and Zone A and Zone B, if I'm not mistaken, Zone A is your top tier, and Zone B is right below them. And with her scores in the 3-meter and 1-meter, that just puts her up there. another one of these all-timers. We've talked about her every single year that we've been doing the ThunderCast and doing the 5 things and talking about the swim and dive team and around the herd. But it was a week in, week out basis for her this year, winning, I want to say 7 times. I know it was at least 6, but I want to say 7 times Sunbelt Conference Diver of the week. Always a threat to win a gold, always a threat to win a meet, and now she's going to be diving in the NCAA zones. By the way, that's today. I don't have what she's done so far in the 3 meter, and then tomorrow is the 1 meter. So by the time this is uploaded tomorrow morning, day 1 results will be up, and we'll have that on Twitter. I'm sure we'll have that out. Herd Zone will have that, and when you get done listening to this on Tuesday, you can say, why don't I just look up and see how she does later on today?
So it looks like I just did a little bit of research, but it looks like the top 5 women in Zone A secure an automatic spot at the Division I championships.
Mm-hmm.
So if she gets in that top 5, which it does say here the results aren't out yet, but if she gets in that top 5, she'll be automatic qualified for that event. So continuing on, so that's good. We'll keep everyone up to date.
It's going to be huge. All right, our 5th and final thing. This was just debuted this morning, but Marshall has partnered with the city of Huntington for the quote paving the way to victory. If Marshall football sells an additional 500 season tickets before March 17th, that's Monday upcoming, the football team will help fill potholes for the city.
Okay.
So a little bit of community service. They're going to come out, add some manpower, give back to the community. I bet you can't throw a dead cat without hitting somebody that's going to say, we have too many potholes in this city. I mean, everybody you talk to, potholes. Here, Marshall is saying, why don't we help do something about that? So if you are listening and you do not have season tickets, it is both a great idea to do that this year to get a little bit of free help for the city that you're driving around in to get more of those potholes filled. But 2, supporting this new team and new coaching staff, Tony Gibson, all-time great from West Virginia here. He's a coaching legend around the nation, and he's come home to Marshall, and this is his first year, and a lot of people are excited about it. So get to 1-800-THE-HERD, get to the ticket office in person on the 2nd floor of City National Bank on 20th Street and 3rd Avenue, or go over to herdzone.com and click tickets. But whatever, go get your season tickets. And if we get 500 people to sign up for season tickets, which, by the way, you can do the family pack again this year, $99 per person for 6 games. It works out to $16.50, right around there. And no cheaper way to take in a season worth of games. Get you, your family, or you and 3 of your friends, go in together and get tickets, get the family pack, get wherever you want to see it. You want to sit in the chairbacks, you can get those. That counts toward this. You want to go over and sit in the new end zone shoey deck, or whatever we're going to end up calling it, you can get those. It qualifies for this. Get your season tickets. Get them before Monday. Let's fill some potholes in the city.
Yeah, I'm just ready to see some of the potholes filled, so I might sign up for some extra tickets.
I was going to say, I've got it on authority that Jed's going to be out there with his Ignite Link crew and Layer 1 Solutions crew trying to, shovel in some of this cold patch or hot patch or whatever they're going
whatever
to
they call it.
Yeah. Well, it just depends on the weather and what they're trying to do. But yeah, I think this is a great thing. All jokes aside, I think this is just another way for Marshall to try something. If we don't get there, we tried, and maybe we get close and Marshall says, hey, we're going to do it anyway. I just really want to see us boost ticket sales and Marshall continuing to partner with the city of Huntington, because let's face it, man, Marshall is the city of Huntington. They're the backbone of the city of Huntington. it's forever going to be entwined, so
Yeah.
I'm just glad to see initiatives like this between the two. Well, Jed, that concludes our this week a legit 5 things every herd fan needs to know, not our usual 14 or 15 that you always bring us, but 5 things every herd fan needs to know this week. As always, brought to you by Ignite Link.
That's a great 5 things. I was surprised that it wasn't 7 or 8, but
Well,
glad at least we.
I combined a couple of them there, with the basketball and things like that. Trying to keep it at 5, but a lot went on. We talked about basketball in 5 things, and we got a lot to talk about with that. But our Diamond Sports had a absolute huge homestand. We've got golf coming up, soccer, all kinds of things to talk about. So we're going to talk about all that in Around the Herd. And your company, again, Layer One Solutions, is helping with that. So let's get a word from Layer One Solutions to take us around the herd.
All right.
And now, Layer One Solutions, your experts in business connectivity infrastructure, takes you around the herd. All right, Jed, we're going to start off with tennis. And we've been talking about the tennis team, and they got up to 43rd, 46th, somewhere around there. They were in the 40s. I think it was
Right.
43rd. And they ended up slipping a little bit in their ranking. They're now 50th for these matchups, but they had a tough road trip. And it just so happened to coincide with Sunbelt Conference play. So they go to James Madison and they fall 4-1 in the Sunbelt Conference opener, and then 2 days later they go to ODU, who by the way is ranked 36th and is always a perennial powerhouse, and lost 4-2 to them. So go down there, had a chance to make a huge splash in the Sun Belt, come in real hot, and go down there and they get ran over. And I don't mean ran over as in like they got destroyed or anything. It's just losing both of them is not what they wanted to do.
Right.
You would think you want to go down there and at least split that 2-game trip, but a really good chance. What happens if you beat JMU as a 50th ranked team and then you go and beat number 36 in their house? I mean, that would have to look very good on your rankings. Thoughts on that 2-game trip? I'm going to bring up some of the stats from.
Yeah. So, they've done, like you said, up until this point, they've been doing pretty well. It's always hard to play on the road,
Mhm.
no matter what sport you're in. There is such thing as a home field, home court advantage for sure. So, I'm looking. You kind of jump into conference play. Getting some of the best teams in the conference. I think you got an opportunity to, uh, as we play, I believe, looks like we're playing Southern Miss on a Saturday in South Alabama on Sunday. I think there's a good opportunity to either split those games or even take on both. So, not sure how good Southern Miss and South Alabama are, but if they're not ranked in the top 50 like JMU and ODU are, I think there's an opportunity for us to kind of get back on track, continue to improve, and you know, still got a season to go here.
Yeah, so here's what we ended up with at JMU. Let's see here. The doubles point went to James Madison there. We ended up winning one of the three, so that gave James Madison the points and or the 1 point, and then we just one, two. Looks like we didn't get to finish because James Madison hit their fourth, but we were up on the other one, so it was looking like if we win that one, then we're up on the other one. It could have been like 3-3 going into the final. End up losing 4-1. Just tough. We were ranked 50th going into that. Like I said, I don't know why we fell in rankings because we didn't have any games that we played, no matches after beating WVU before we went down there. But then in ODU, they just did more of the same. Marshall actually took the double point, and then that's how good ODU did in singles was, blanking. Well, not blanking. We lost 4-2, but yeah, I mean, chance for a statement, and we just couldn't do it.
Well, it looks like Southern Miss isn't ranked, as far as I can tell, at least in the top 75.
Yeah.
Looks like South Alabama. Looks like they're ranked number 41.
Well, really?
So what I'm seeing here, yeah, as of March 5th, the women's team ranked number 41st. Looking here, it's the that's the ITA rankings.
Yeah, that's what we go by.
So yeah, that definitely another possible tough match. Southern Miss looks to be probably competitive to winnable. South Alabama is going to be a tough match, but hey, we started out hot. I mean, kind of take one on the chin on the road and learn from it and see if we can knock 2 more games out. So
coming back home, that's good. They're playing Saturday and Sunday both at 10 a.m. Make sure you get out if you can and support them. We'll have info coming up this weekend on all those scores. KD will have it up on the Twitter account, and you can find it again on Herd Zone. Men's golf, they'll be in the Sea Palms Invitational Thursday through Saturday. So, again, we'll have all the results from that. Hopefully Ryan Bilby can get right back to where he was before this, winning Sunbelt Conference Golfer of the Week. Women's soccer, they are also playing spring soccer. They're not in the College Spring League. I don't even know if the women collegiate teams have that. I know the men are still in that. They're just not playing right now. Here's the home schedule that they have let's see. They played with no results given. They played Shepherd on Saturday to open the spring, and then Liberty on March 3rd or March 30th, 2 p.m. Charleston on April 9th at 4 p.m. Glenville State on April the 12th at 2 p.m. Keep in mind that is the day of the spring game, so you can be right down the street tailgating, go to watch the women, come right back for the spring game.
Yeah, it looks like there's, the men's have been obviously participating in a spring league for the last few years now. Women's doing that. There's been kind of a move to try to make soccer, I wouldn't say year round, but there's been some whispers and talks about it across collegiate soccer. So, yeah, it's always good to see soccer spring and fall. To me, there's never enough soccer, so I'm always down for that. So is my oldest, at least.
Yeah,
she plays soccer, so she's always down to watching some soccer games between her practices and things like that. So always a good time. So encourage everybody to go if you can.
Yeah. All right, so softball, they picked up 6 wins on their homestand this weekend. They beat Loyola 9-1 in 5 innings. Got the run rule going there. Buffalo 3-2. Those were both on Friday. On Saturday, another run rule. Valparaiso 13-5 in 5 innings. Then beat Buffalo again 9-4. Loyola 13-5 on Sunday. That was in 6 innings. Another run rule. And then to close it out, 6 games, 6 wins. They blanked Valparaiso 5-0. They're going to host number 24 Liberty on Tuesday at 6 p.m. and then welcome Louisiana to town for the weekend. That's Friday at 6 p.m., Saturday at 4 p.m., Sunday at noon. Jed, if anyone is listening, this is what you want to hear. Number 24 Liberty coming to town, and then the cream of the crop, usually year in, year out for the Sun Belt, Louisiana. We faced them in the championship game 2 years ago, and they barely beat us 1-0. They have a rabid fan base that supports them down there, but they're coming to the Dot. And this is our chance to really make a statement in the Sun Belt this year with this team playing Louisiana at home right after number 24 Liberty. So huge 4 games. Make sure you can get out to the Dot if you can.
Yeah, absolutely. Well worth it, especially when you're bringing a ranked team into town. So.
All right, so baseball, they kept up with their winning ways with a hot week as well. They beat Ohio in thrilling fashion. Not sure it can get much more exciting than this. A walk-off grand slam in the 12th inning to win 11-7 on Tuesday. And then Bradley comes to town, and we beat them 6-2, 11-6, and 7-2. Central Michigan comes to town Tuesday at 5 and then Wednesday at 3 p.m. And then we finally hit the road after this long home stretch, going down to Jonesboro, Arkansas against Arkansas State Friday at 7 p.m., Saturday at 7 p.m., and then Sunday at 2 p.m. Jed, I've only been able to go to one game this year. It was opening day over there. I really, really wish I could have been there for that Tuesday night game against Ohio, the Bobcats. You always like to beat Ohio in everything.
Well, let me tell you about that Tuesday game because I was there, Russ.
Oh, man. I want to hear everything about it.
Well, let me tell you, start by saying that that I had my whole family with me. We actually did an outing with the Ignite Link and the Layer 1 and the Compton folks. So we had a bunch of people there, had a good time. We actually rented out the President's Suite.
Awesome.
You know how they advertise, how they were advertising that online. So we took them up on that offer, and we got to watch the game in that kind of fashion. So it was a lot of fun. We had a great time together. Game started off pretty slow. It's kind of more of a pitcher's game, I guess, than it was, knocking ball out of the park. I had my little 4-year-old with me, so we were there when they hit the home run to tie the game up with Ohio. And we stayed, I'm trying to think, it was at least the 11th or 12th inning. And, my 4-year, she's gone, gone, dead to the world. So we're like, all right, we got to pack it up. So we pack it up and we leave. And as I'm driving down the road, I get that text about this. So I missed that grand finale. I was kicking myself. I was like, oh, if I could stuck it out a little bit more, but it was a great time, great atmosphere. There was a good turnout, and like you said, it's always good to beat the Bobcats. So
and
heck of a game.
That President's Suite, CKD and I, well, actually, no, it was the solo show that I did a week ago. I was talking about that. And, it works out to, with the tickets that you get, it's just over $55 per person with the 18 seats that you get. So it's very affordable for, a group of friends to go and have, but a small business like this or a big business, it's a really good thing. I've been in the President's Suite before. I was a guest there for a Big Green event that we did last year and had some coaches at and everything for the Thunder Trust. But it was a great game to go to. I had to leave real early because I'm trying to remember what it was. It was a Cold Cats game, but I had something that I had to do. My wife and I went to dinner. We had reservations for it, but anyway, the point is going to that $1,000. Yeah, one person, that sounds like a lot of money, but a big group of people or a small business, it's a very cool thing to do. I'm glad they're doing that. I'm glad you guys took advantage of it. I do hate that you had to miss the Grand Slam. Just
we had a lot of people leave. Being a Tuesday evening, the game went pretty late.
Yeah, it's tough.
So we had several people, hit the road to get home in time. But there were a couple that stayed, and they got to witness it. So I got the text of, man, you guys just missed it.
Missed it. Yeah, if you were in the 11th or 12th, you're staying that long, and then I tell you, there's been some good walk-off moments at the Jack already in its infancy, and I was there for that walk off against WVU, and
Yeah.
that was great. And that was a weeknight, and that was one of those where you're up real late. I have to get up at 5:30 to be with getting my kids ready and stuff like that. So that one was tough, but I wouldn't have missed that for the world, um, just because of who the opponent was.
Yeah.
Um, Marshall baseball now 9-6. They've won 8 in a row, going all the way back to that finale against Georgia Tech, and then coming
Mhm.
back here and 7-0 at the Jack so far. A lot of momentum. Let's hope they can keep it up here. Central Michigan pick up a couple other wins before they go down to Sun Belt play and take on Arkansas State.
Yeah.
All right, so let's see here. Now we're down to basketball. Women's basketball, they come in, they had a really tough year starting out. They had an 11th seed ranking, even though they had improved dramatically over those final, probably about 3 weeks of play, maybe even the final month. I mean, they just picked it up. Everybody seemed to get healthy. Everybody seemed to play better at the right time, playing together at the right time. And they get the 11th seed. 11 through 14, you have to play every single game if you want to win the tournament. They played 5 games in 5 days, and the first 4, obviously, victories to be able to do that. And they finally just ran into a Troy team that was bigger. They were fresh.
Yeah.
Here, this is their first game, and you're playing your 5th in 5 days. But Troy was bigger. They were blocking shots. They were killing us on the boards at times. And then, even though it was close, I know at one time it was 49-43. I'm trying to think if it was within 6 points anytime after that. But Troy just goes on this huge run. And while they're on the run, they just were ridiculous from behind the arc. I think they hit like 5 threes in a row during this run. And they just pulled away, and we ended up losing, what was it, 85-54,
Yep.
31 points. And it was close until that. So you can tell that we just got gassed. You know, shots weren't falling. It seemed to be just fatigue setting in, and just an absolutely brutal Troy team that could hurt you from the outside, but just the size that they had down low was killing us.
Right.
They
Well,
they also pressed us for almost the entire game, which that's going to wear you down as well.
right. I mean, the game strategy was the right strategy against a Marshall team that was on game 5 in 5 days. I know they talked about having their routine every evening,
Mm-hmm.
to get to eat and get rested up and be prepared for the next day, and they did. I mean, to win 4 games and give a heck of a run till the third quarter on that 5th game was phenomenal. But the way they've changed the Sun Belt bracket, it's 7 games. I mean, it's designed for what happened. It's designed so a lower seeded team doesn't win. It favors the higher seeded teams. It's just, I get what they're trying to do there, but yeah, that was pretty brutal, but a lot of fun to watch.
So the women, it ended up being teams 1 through 4 in the rankings, were your final 4 teams. And you go into that, and all these other teams, they played and they put up this great effort, but then they run into the 3 team, the 4 team, and then the 1s and the 2s are playing against the 3s and the 4s. It seemed like it was a lot of nothing to get to the conclusion that they kind of wanted. But I enjoyed a team like Marshall going in there, obviously as my team, but there were fans of other conference schools that were either putting it right on social media or sending me messages and just saying, wow, man, I'm rooting for Marshall and what they were doing. And a friend of mine from James Madison was sitting down there courtside, and he ended up getting tickets. You can get them for games, and he went to the Marshall games as well. And I told him I've made him a not even just a closet Marshall fan. He's a bona fide fan now,
Right.
sitting courtside, but he was sending me videos and texts and things like that about that. And he was just like, wow, man, Marshall came to play, tough game. And they did, man. They put on a heck of an effort to win 4 games in 4 days. And I think, if anything, that's what I like about this tournament, even though it is set up to make it to where pretty much you can't win like that, because 7 games in 7 days is just going to kill just about any team. But can you imagine if they do?
Yeah.
You're going to be the darling of the college basketball world, in the men's or the women's, if you can do that. You're going to be the team, and that's going to be a story that everybody is going to tell. If you were ranked 11th through 14th and you get to go there and you win 7 games in 7 days and ultimately beat these top 4 teams to get in to the NCAA tournament with that automatic bid, you are going to be the darling. And anything can happen in the NCAA tournament. We've seen it, at least for a round or two, some of these Cinderella teams. So I like that aspect of this. It makes it harder than hell and extremely unlikely that you're going to see it. But if it does, it's setting up for something special.
Right. No, absolutely. And for a second there, it was almost like, could they do it? Definitely, to wrap this part up, you wanted to see a little bit more out of the team this year. There was a lot more, there's a lot more excitement around this team, especially after what happened last year with new head coach and things like that. But with that being said, to see that grit and determination, the adjustments that were made for the tournament, knocking off teams, higher seeded that it beat us, things like that. Gives me some cautious. I'm cautiously optimistic about next year. I think, again, like we talked about with Coach Jackson, every first year head coach, don't get the don't always get the Kim Caldwell treatment. Very rarely does that happen. So give her some time. Let's see how next season goes. Next couple of seasons, get a couple recruiting classes under her belt. But if she can continue to improve upon what they were able to do in this tournament, I think there's some hope and some really good things that can happen next year with this women's team as well.
Yeah, I think that the momentum and getting the fans behind that was another great thing that I liked about this tournament setup, because there were fans that were already buying in over the last bit of the season and saying how fun this squad was. But to see them put up that effort down there, I think that built in some very, very good momentum for this offseason and for next year. And a lot of people are excited to see who's going to come back, who we're going to bring in, and what kind of damage we're going to look to build off of from this year. The men's team, they ended up in their first game. They were ranked 5th overall, so they had to play in the what would that have been? It was the I don't know what they would have called it, but anyway, whatever round it was, if it was the 5th round, 4th round, whatever, picked up a 79-76 win, and that was against Georgia State. And then they lost an absolute heartbreaker, which I want to throw things at the Sun Belt Conference refs. 4th seeded Arkansas State beats them 77-74 to end Corny Jackson's first year. It was not a foul. It was not a foul. I'm not even going. I can't even though I disagreed with it, I can't make a huge argument about Nate Martin getting thrown out. I don't personally think he should have been thrown out with what was going on the opposite end of the court. He got mauled. He was maimed, and then they go down and he gets maimed on that end of the court trying to get a rebound. through frustration, he didn't turn around and see where he was hitting. He just, kind of hit backwards, and it just happened to land in a place where no guy wants it to land. And he happened to do it right in front of a ref. And if it were somebody from Arkansas State had done that to Nate Martin, I would have taken an ad out in the newspaper to say that guy should have got a flagrant 2 and been thrown out. That's why I can't argue too much about that. And I want to get your thoughts on that in a second. But there's no one on this earth that is anyone but an Arkansas State fan that can objectively look at that foul on the three-pointer at the end of the game and say, yes, that was a valid foul call. Obina was standing flat-footed with his arms in the air, and the guy didn't even lean into him when he was going up for the shot. He leaned away, and they called it a foul. He hits the 3 free throws. That's the deciding factor of the game. Horrible way to end the season. The Sunbelt refs and officials in just about all sports, I put this up. It's a shame. They had that reputation before we came into the conference.
Yeah.
And I've seen it in multiple sports that they just seem to get things wrong all the time. And this is not just Marshall fans bitching. I can tell you that many a Coastal fan, many a Troy fan, many a Louisiana fan. I mean, Georgia State, Georgia Southern, they have all told us Sunbelt refs, Sunbelt officiating, it's bad. That's one thing that we've got that's bad. And it's just come to light, man. It's been bad. So whatever you want to tell me about either of those 2 plays, I'd love to hear your reactions on it.
Well, if you want to go in on the ad together, we can. I'm game.
Yeah.
So, one thing that I will point out, I'm not going to play devil's advocate here, but to play devil's advocate just a hair bit is our free throw shooting was kind of abysmal.
It was.
And that definitely covered that point differential at the end of the game.
And it was down the stretch because early it was good. It was solid. And then down the stretch, it was bad. I'm with you.
And that doesn't excuse a bad call. And like you said, if we're down 20, if we're down 20, you get a bad call. If you're up 20, get a bad call. That's not going to affect the outcome of a game. But I there have been multiple times where I have seen bad officiating affect the outcome of a game.
Yeah.
And it's not something that you want to see your season end on that. Now, there were times that Arkansas State's players made some clutch shots and clutch plays. Same thing on our side. You get beat by a clutch play, you get beat. The game before, Abina going up, that 3-point, that's a clutch play, perfectly called, perfectly executed. You just got beat. So no, I've rewatched that too. I even watched Nate Martin's thing a few times because I actually missed it in the moment. I was distracted by some other things. And even then, I mean, flagrant 1 for sure. Kick him out. Even that one I'm unsure about. But let's say that one. But the 3, I don't know. It's garbage. That's all I can say. That's all I can say.
Yeah,
I'm a fan at the end of the day, and I hate that. I hate that for our team and our guys. So
let's take it a step further on what I said earlier too. I was talking about Nate getting mauled down there. Let's say that doesn't happen, and all game long they are calling tight and saying, "Hey, if you go up and there's any contact, we're going to call it." But I'm talking about like. I texted again, Jake, the guy I was talking about from JMU. He was there. He was courtside. He put it up on Twitter and tagged the ThunderCast in it and said, is this a foul? And his angle was even worse to show it. And he all game long said, man, the refs are just allowing people to beat each other. I mean, and I'm talking, fouls all over. Look at the entire sequence. Nate Martin's dad, Josh, he posted it, and it was nothing more than the ESPN broadcast of when Nate was on offense. And he goes up for a shot, and I mean, he's just almost sure that there's going to be a foul. He just
Yeah.
stopped play because how can that not be a foul? The guy was hanging on him like a monkey at the
Right.
zoo, you know?
Yep.
And it was like, I'm trying to go up and the guy's just got his arms, like I said, like he's just swinging from the parallel bars.
Mhm.
And it's not a foul, and he turns around and he looks at the ref, and I think that was
Yep.
part of the reason. And Nate's dad Josh said that they disagreed at mid-court on it being a flagrant 2 and him being out, and they
Yeah, I saw that.
did it anyway. So I think that played a little bit into it, that he turned around and looked at the ref like, come on. I know that played into his frustrations, but I think the ref at that point may have been looking from a little extra hard after that.
Right.
And unfortunately they got it wrong. But
No, I
what
agree.
makes it even worse is if you're going to allow that, but then Obina can just stand straight up with his arms in the air and not even affect the guy's shot, and the guy leaps away from him, following away, and you call that a foul? Man, it's horrible.
Consistency.
Yeah,
Consistency.
yeah.
You call it, if you're gonna play, call it loose, call it loose, call it tight,
Yeah.
call it tight.
Yeah.
Just call it the same across the board.
I mean, if you tell
the
them,
game play
if
itself
you
out.
go in there in the first half and you basically just through the way you're calling, just say, hey guys, might as well tape your fists up because this is what we're going to allow you to do, then you need to do that the entire game.
Right.
But you don't let that stuff go on and then punish a kid and then turn around and say, oh, hey, now we're going to call a Tic Tac foul where he got breathed on while he's shooting a 3.
Right.
And oh, by the way, this can decide the game because it's in the final seconds of a tied game. That's crap. That is so crap.
I agree.
It was a bad desperation shot that the guy was taking anyway. It was not a good shot that he was taking, and it wasn't just from 2. It wasn't under the rim. It was one of those that the guy was almost out of bounds and he's jumping away just to try to get the ball off. Right. And they call it a foul, and that decides the game. So here on the ThunderCast, we don't berate the refs all the time. We've said like, hey, hate to be the guy that, is on the refs, or, they've got a hard job. And we do say when they got it wrong. We do say when we think that it was bad officiating, but that was egregious. That was horrible. That shouldn't go on. And there's been a few things. I love the Sun Belt. You hear me talk about the Sun Belt on here all the time. I love the Sun Belt. I'm glad we're in the Sun Belt. But there were some things during that tournament that made me, on many times, curse the Sun Belt. Yeah. And the production during the women's game that we ended up getting beat, when they're cutting out 6 different times, went to commercial during play. Yeah.
I was getting texts. I was getting texts for that. Oh, is this happening to you? Is this happening to you? And
I got the same thing. Yeah,
yep.
It's happening unfortunately on everybody's TVs. And that got me. And I have said for the last couple of years, we've had Noah Frary on the show, and I actually, had some back and forth with Noah. Noah and the rest of the announce staff is in the studio watching the same feed that we are. They're not there in person to hear what the officials are saying. They're not there in person to see the different angles and things like that. They're in the studios. I think that's a horrible call.
I agree.
And the refereeing, absolutely horrible. So I'm not going to get on them for the format. I've already told you I like that in that one instance. I'm going to get on them horribly for the refereeing, and we have got to do better than the Bush League presentation of not having announcers there. And if Keith Gill ever shows up on this show, he may have bad blood with us afterwards. I will say it directly to his face. I think that it is Bush League when you have 6 different times. I could see it happening once. I could see it happening twice. 6 different times that it goes to commercial during gameplay. Like, I'm talking about middle of the fast break goes to
going in for a layup, and then
watching Yeah.
pizza commercial or
Yeah,
whatever. Yeah.
Fortnite playing Backstreet Boys,
Right.
and how many times do I
Yep.
need to know that I don't want to buy that game? No matter how many times that commercial is going to be up, but it was Bush League
Yep.
presentation with that, and in my opinion, there's no justification, especially if you're going to pay to have these announcers to go to New Orleans for the studio. I'm thinking that's where it is. No matter what, if you're going to do that, man, just pay for them to be there on site so
Right.
they can give us better insight, so they can be there and interview these coaches. They have a sideline reporter there interviewing the coaches. You need the announcers there. The whole thing just screamed something Conference USA would do, and I thought we'd put that in our rearview mirror.
Yeah. No,
Well, Jed, go
yeah,
ahead.
I totally agree. And this is the kind of my final thoughts on the whole thing, but you nailed it. If you weren't going to say it, I was Bush League. And that's something, and I know, and I don't want to, bash the Sun Belt in any way, because I think one of the things that they understand is, image is important, right?
Mhm.
They want to be a premier conference, and there's been a lot of good things that they've done,
A lot of good things.
and things that have, raised the conference level from, what not what it was, but what it appeared to be, right? I mean, you ask Marshall fans 10 years ago, how would they feel about going to the Sun Belt, and, get their reactions. So,
Yeah.
so they, great job, 2 thumbs up on that. But if you're going to continue that, you need to accept the criticism, welcome the criticism, and then, be willing to make changes. You can say, yeah, we messed up. This wasn't right. We maybe need to pay more for refs. I don't I don't know what you do, but pay more for the quality, or just be willing to accept criticism, and then make changes, right? So
I
as long as
think
they
I,
do that, we're happy.
I think it has to start with accountability. You have to hold
Yeah.
these refs accountable and grade them and say, "I'm sorry, but that was horrible." The
Yep.
Sun Belt could come out and make a statement because conferences have done that before,
Yep.
right? They've come out and said, "Hey, we got it wrong," you know, and they're not. They're basically, condoning this, and I can't tell you, how many people from other teams. That's why I'm saying, unless you are an Arkansas State uh, fan or associated with them in some way, or hate Marshall for some reason, that's about the only people I could think of that could objectively look at that and say that was a foul. Everybody else in the world is going, that's not a foul. And the people that are saying it was a foul because they like Arkansas State or they hate Marshall, if that happened to their team, they would be saying the same things because that was not a foul. It's not one of these that you can say, was it goaltending? Was it not?
Right.
That it's, because one of those happened in the game too. And I'm not convinced the refs got that right. And it was against Arkansas State. Um, I said both teams got hosed at different points of that
Yeah.
game. And
Absolutely.
there's just no way that you can look at that and be happy with the officiating. So I think that is where the Sun Belt needs to start, is say, we're not going to tolerate this. When they
Right.
screw up in football, call them on it.
Yeah.
There are grades on all officiating where they can say, well, you don't score a certain, you don't get more games in the in the postseason or whatever. Well, it needs to be the same way. Just say, I'm sorry, but your crew is no longer going to be doing Sunbelt games.
Right.
And that's going to fix it at some point. You're going to get better, uh, better officiating. If the Sun Belt supports, hey, that was a bad call. You
Yeah.
know, just be honest, be open, say they got it wrong because that looked horrible.
Yeah. It's a
You
bad
know,
look for sure.
yeah. And there's just no other way to say it than to spend a little bit more money and up your production, for the tournament. Uh, get the announcers on site and just don't hit the commercial button 6 times during the game.
Right. Exactly. Oh, geez.
Jed, that's all I've got. I've ranted plenty enough about the Sun Belt and what I thought about that call. So, do you have anything before we get out of here?
No, that's all I've got for this week, Russ.
Well, I want to thank Layer One Solutions and Jed. Jed, I'm sorry, I was supposed to allow you to lead that entire section, and I forgot about that. Uh, Still in the mode from the previous 2 weeks of doing it solo, and I just ran right into it. But thanks to Jed and Layer One Solutions for taking you around the herd. And with that, I'm going to say whether you see us at the Jack, whether you see us at the Joan, whether you see us at the Dot for a huge, huge week, get over to the Dot, take your families. No matter where you see us, we're going to be saying, go herd. It's the ThunderCast, and we'll see you next week.
Go herd.